Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks. This is your host, Irliana Samsara of StarSound Astrology, episode 155. And I'm so excited because today we have with us Andrea Michelle. You may have seen her on the Astrology Hub podcast at the end of the year when there was a summit for the forecast for 2022. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much, Andrea, for being here. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited. Thank you for the invitation.
So you might be wondering, why Andrea? Well, obviously, there was something that piqued my interest, and I will tell you, there was a comment that she made during the podcast. It was fabulous. I mean, everybody was just on, and there was something that she said that really piqued my attention, and I just felt I need to seek her out. I need to write her. So I did, and I said, and we'll explain what that is. We'll get into it in the podcast, but just to say, it was so intriguing to me, and I just felt I understood her, and there wasn't really much of an opportunity to go into that conversation on the summit. It was deep, and so I figured, hey, let's get this opportunity out there, and so yay, that's why you're here, and I'm just so grateful. So anyway, just to kind of give you a little background, to introduce Andrea to you guys. In 2012, Venus's visible passing between Earth and Sun ignited Andrea Michelle's soul circuitry by awakening her passion for remembering ourselves through marrying sky and earth in our bodies. Her greatest joy is collaboratively initiating her clients into their mysteries through a deeper alchemy of self and soul. She made her professional teaching debut at the Second Sky Astrology Conference in 2018 and was most recently a lunar guide for Astrology Hub's Inner Circle, like I said, in 2022. Oh, yes, so she was on the summit, and then she also was the lunar guide. So if you're a subscriber to Astrology Hub, you've had Andrea. Andrea Michelle is devoted to the wisdom medicine of our human vulnerability as a gateway into the freedom, truth, love, power, and compassion of our deep heart. Did I not pick a good guest or what? I'm telling you. So welcome. Thank you so much, Andrea.
Thank you very much. It's so interesting to hear someone else read my bio. It's like, oh, there's a lot of words. Thank you. You did a great job.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, it's beautiful and it's deep. And what I love about your work, Andrea, is that it really speaks to the depth of the soul and marrying astrology and the soul and the soul's journey. And so there's, of course, many astrologers of different stripes, but I love those of us who feel called to go in that direction. And I know yes, Precious Human Birth, that's the name of your website. So I want to know, I'd like to talk about the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. And I just thought maybe we could, I love to start with everybody is, how did you find astrology? Were you doing it your whole life? Did you have a career change? And, how you got into it and what led you to that?
Yes, that's a great question. And I don't know why my phone is going. So astrology just showed up for me. When was it? Gosh, sometime around 2008, maybe. I had absolutely no interest in it. Didn't even have any idea other than the local sun sign blurbs in the paper. But I was working in a corporate environment for most of my adult life. And it just came to me. I was starting to explore spirituality and through plant medicines and such. And astrology just kept showing up. It just kept showing up and showing up. And people would say, there's something about you and the stars or astrology. You might want to check it out. And I was like, okay, whatever. So I just, over a couple of years, started studying on my own, just seeking a little bit of out here and there. And then when I went to Peru in 2012 for a deep retreat in the jungle, I didn't know it at the time, but as you read in the bio, Venus is passing in front of the sun at the inception of her last Gemini cycle 8 years ago was huge. I mean, it was huge for everybody, but it was like I was so energetically open in the jungle, and it just infused me in a way that only years later did I appreciate that that's what that was. So then I came back, found my teacher, just showed up. You know, when you're ready, the teacher shows up, right?
Absolutely.
And that is Adam Gainsbourg of Soul Sign Astrology. He's been my primary mentor and teacher. And
Oh, I love him.
yeah, he's
He's
great.
awesome.
And so that's how it started, and here I am. So.
And he's so much about Venus. I know he does the courses
Yes,
and I keep telling him one of these days I want to take that deep immersion. It's like definitely on my bucket list for sure.
It's awesome. Yes, it really is. Yep. So his Venus cycle, his book, The Light of Venus, I got very, very deeply into that. And that's going to be part of when we're going to be speaking. Part of why I shared what I shared at the forecast is because of the phase that Venus is in now, actually, which not substantiates, but is part of, you could say, an underlying condition for what I brought forward in my intuition about what this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction could be.
And Venus just entered Pisces.
Yes.
Yeah, it was, I think yesterday, 0 Pisces. So now she's joining the party, the Jupiter-Neptune party, and she's entered the room. And
exactly.
Yeah, as if it wasn't exciting enough and deeply mystical. And so, yeah, so tell us, what do you feel about that, and what speaks to you?
Well, so one of the reasons that I suggested in the podcast that it could be a time, not on the exact date, obviously, but this time of Jupiter coming together with Neptune in Pisces, where both of them are co-rulers, right?
Right.
Because if we look at Pisces, just generally, one of the significations of Pisces is, the way I learned it, what makes sense to me, is final endings. It's return, the 12th house, Pisces, Neptune, oneness. So it's indicative of death, right?
Right, the dissolution of the material form.
Exactly. So that in and of itself, with these two there, and the it's like, because of all the hardships that many have had over the last several years, and the disillusionment that things are actually going to get back to a sense of normal for people who are wishing or hoping that that was the case, or even start to see some more tangible evidence of things improving, that this could be literally the way out for some people, not necessarily consciously, but a way of like, this is going to sound so cheesy, but like a stairway to heaven, as it were, like a way to go back home. In a sense,
that's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's and the Venus cycle right now, Venus has entered. I mean, and there are a number of astrologers who see the Venus cycle differently, but the way I learned it through Adam in his book, he delineated 13 phases of her cycle. And the one we are currently in, where she's descending now as a morning star from being at her highest and brightest and maximum morning elongation with the sun.
Right.
She's now in what he calls the surrendering and discovery phase. So this is literally where, in the Inanna myth, where the Queen of Heaven has to let go of her vestiges, of which we can look at as our attachments to who we thought we were, and her meetups with the moon, which is a balsamic moon. During this 5.5 month period, she's meeting up with this moon, this heavy pregnant moon, which we can look at as either the old crone initiating the young maiden, because she's morning star, to wisdom that she can't access yet, but like preparing her for when she's an evening star. Or it can be, if we're looking at the moon as our ego attachments, our safety attachments, the things that keep us safe, that we don't want to change. This is an opportunity with the balsamic waning moon to help us shed, to literally help us exfoliate those parts of ourselves where we're still playing small. So the surrendering is surrendering into more of ourselves so we can discover more of what never dies, which is our essence. So there's a loss in the surrendering and discovery phase implicit. So this is where we're learning about loss and how to navigate loss, not through trying to control it, but through surrendering. And we're not surrendering into something outside of ourselves, which is Jupiter and Neptune thing can be, but it's really more of a surrendering into ourselves, because this is Venus. She's an internal planet. It's about discovering our light inside, the light that never fades, that never diminishes. So that is like that sloughing for me tends to also emphasize this kind of leaving or dying thing. So if we're looking at it like an opportunity to slough off even more of our disillusionment, Neptune, Pisces, around how we wanted life to look, and not take it so personally, but appreciate that this is just another step of our deep initiation as a species, right? Then we can use it to our advantage to die to the things that no longer serve, or again, illusions about the best course of action or the right way to go. Jupiter is very much about the path, right? It can be about the right, this is the right way to go. This is the truth. This is the true way.
This is the moral high ground.
Exactly. So part of this is literally Jupiter expands and opens us up, right? So it can be, and it brings us to a higher vibration. And what that does is it helps to show us the places where we've been out of coherence. So that can be part of this disillusionment, is the Jupiter expansion of this Neptunian fog or idealization or hope can actually bring about the places where we have been relying on others, like a teacher, Jupiter, to give us an answer or to supply a need for us or to satisfy a deep longing that is only really for us, Venus, to discover within, ultimately. So again, one of the things that Jupiter can do is, with its frequency raising effect, it can expose incoherency, which again can really get people disillusioned and seeking an escape, basically. And that can be through drugs or any sort of addictive substance. And it could be television, it could be news, it can be addiction to the latest news to give me the information so that I know what's coming, which is really just, again, can instill more fear, which is a very Piscean, negative, you could say, less coherent attribute.
Right, like the shadow side of
exactly
the whole thing is about, being duped. And
yes.
Yeah, I like what you said about that, and being really discerning. That's not an easy place to be discerning.
No.
There's that brand new, now that Venus is in the room, you were saying earlier, like, here's the brand new shiny object. Venus is about glamour, beauty, but can be glamour beauty. And that can be deceptive, that what looks really elegant on the surface, the shadow of Venus is, this surface view, but then what's behind that?
Exactly. And we are so, in my opinion, we are so Libra oriented that we forget about Taurus. We are so determinant. Our values are determined by our culture, our families, our friends, our social environment, more than through an intrinsic relationship with what we value. I would say more often than not. that it really takes discernment, like you're saying, to recognize what is my heart saying here? What is my discernment around what's true? How does it feel in me, Venus?
How does it feel?
Taurus.
Right.
What's the immediate? Taurus is very instinctual, and we have subjugated the instinct to cognition to such a degree that I think we've lost our capacity to really appreciate that instinct it's more than just survival. It's part of our knowing, part of our intrinsic way of knowing ourselves as a human being and how we orient to the world, and not just have the world teach us how we should orient to it. It's a mutuality so in that respect, yes, Venus, especially in Pisces, can be duped into the glamour, like you say, of the shiny object, of what's outside of ourselves.
And I want to go back to, there was something you said earlier about when you talk about the phases of Venus, and where Adam had delineated these 13 phases, and that and then the balsamic moon.
Yes.
And to say, when you said, which for those of you who are not familiar with the phase of the moon, the balsamic moon is the one that's right before the new moon. So the moon is dark. It's like it's shed. It's done. It's the very, very end of that cycle. When you said that, Andrea, I thought immediately, I flashed on my Catholic school upbringing. The book, when I was a kid, I loved to, I didn't read the Bible like Catholics in Vatican II. We didn't read like the Old Testament and all that. That was more of a Protestant thing, but there was a lot of focus on the New Testament. And I just remember as a child, the only part of the Bible that really pulled me in was the book of Revelation. And, that the apocalyptic visionary, it yes. was, yeah. So I remember, I'm getting chills just saying this to you. And I remember that there's that one, I don't have it to read here, but I remember that one line about, it was a woman, it was like the Divine Mother, pregnant and giving birth, and she was wailing, and she was pregnant, and she was about to, and there was something was about to swallow it up. And you probably
yes, the Virgin, yes, with the dragon,
yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm just getting chills. The hair on my legs is standing up. So I almost feel like astrologically, that's what's here now, is this outrageous apocalyptic moment where we are in this birthing phase, and yes. it just completely aligns, I feel, with what you're saying.
I agree. And to be clear, I love what you're saying too, because to be clear, apocalypse means to reveal. It's
right.
gotten such a negative connotation, but it literally means a revealing, a great unveiling.
Oh,
and
my
again,
goodness.
This is what that Jupiter-Neptune can do. The Jupiter being about coherence, making things even more coherent. Well, whatever is in the fog and like nebulous is going to become more and more crystallized and clear. And especially with that 0-degree Virgo moon that's in this chart, right? Virgo is
right.
discernment, self-accuracy. It's self-honesty too. It's an opportunity to be more honest, because Pisces, Neptune and Jupiter all about truth, the search for the truth. Jupiter, Neptune, ultimate truth. If it's been obscured to us through our own safety mechanisms, our own patterns, it's not that something outside of us has been keeping the truth from us. It's no, we can't know ultimate truth. But Virgo is the polarity that brings down ultimate truth into the relative arena for us to be able to take it into bite-sized, piecemeal chunks, so that we can actually work with it. Earth, Virgo.
Right, we can ground that.
Yes, exactly, ground it.
Grounding transcendence. Mm-hmm. I think about, like, when you say that, I think about the Walden, Thoreau, where he basically chucked the material lifestyle that all of his peers were into. You happen to marry a nice girl, you do the thing, you show off your horses and your farm, and he's like, I don't want any of that. He was like the original hippie.
Yes.
And I know in the 60s it was, Walt, that he was obviously really embraced, because it was, there was the consciousness opening to that. But yeah, that whole thing about transcendence and the things that you think you really want, like with Venus, you know, the personal, I think about personal possessions and glamour and attachment to the material goods. And it's like, no, this isn't. You know what I find is interesting too? Every inauguration, no matter who's in office, no matter who gets voted in, it's always at 12 noon. So we always have Taurus rising. Every inauguration is Taurus rising.
Oh, wow. Great insight. Look
Isn't
at
that interesting?
Yes.
So it ensures that we have this certain lane that the United States is traveling in. I mean, it wasn't always throughout history. They changed the inauguration dates through history. Like it used to be in March in the 1930s. I think after like FDR, that's when they fixed it for January 20th.
Huh.
0 Aquarius. Yeah, so you got Taurus on the.
Interesting. Wow.
So now we've got Uranus moving through if you want to look at an inauguration chart, Uranus. And I think if I recall, I can't pull it up. I don't think I saved it, but the inauguration chart for the most recent, the Biden presidency, I think it was Uranus was conjunct the ascendant, I want to say. So yeah, we knew there was going to be a lot of deep and very, you know, revolutionary change, and certainly in the values, all the value system. But anyway, I just wanted to share that.
Awesome. I love that. That is so interesting. I had no idea. There's yeah, and Venus, as you mentioned, in Pisces now can be attachments, our attachments to escapism, our attachment to just wanting it to be over, to like go back into like anesthetizing ourselves like this. And what this period is, I mean, we're in it for the long haul now. This is Pluto in Capricorn, which is in sextile to this this union of Jupiter and Neptune. So everything has a context too. And of course, we can just go on for hours about the whole chart and all the different contexts. But it seems to me, one of the things that I made a note of that I wanted to share about bringing Pluto and Capricorn in the mix here, if we think about the potential of Pluto, which is a reinvestment literally in grounding into our power, Pluto. This Jupiter-Neptune conjunction can positively manifest as being empowered to bring more knowledge of our spiritual potential into 3D, right? And activation and awakening of our divine will in our collective memory, Capricorn, which is a deep metamorphosis for the long haul. So again, if we remember that we're in this is not a temporary thing. This initiation of in 2020, we're looking at this for years to come. So this is not at all a doomsday scenario, apocalyptic in the way that we thought. It's more of like we are going to need to be discerning and ground in and root ourselves into more of our center and our sovereignty, Capricorn, in order to ride through the waves of disillusionment that are going to keep showing up in waves. But when we allow ourselves to feel the disillusionment and not take it personally, then that's the potential to open up into receiving the bounty, the benefits, the blessings of what's behind the disillusionment, what the disillusionment is actually revealing, which is more bliss, more truth, more enlightenment. But we get caught up in, it's like we get caught up in the content of the initiation rather than the fact that it's an initiation, and use that as the context to bring us through to the other side. We don't wait to see what's on the other side, or we try to jump ahead of the initiation and then we miss the gold that is the initiation. We miss the intimacy that the initiation brings us to, the initiation of the intimacy of I am alive in this moment, and I am alive to feel, receive, as much or as little of whatever is happening as I want.
That's beautiful.
I hope that makes sense. Okay, good.
Yes, it does. And I think too, it's like, you think that, the material world was, giving you, and this, this in our culture, this insatiable desire for things. And it's like, no, the best things in life are not things. Let us give you this moment where it's going to look for a little while like complete disillusionment, because we've got something better. Just trust us.
Okay.
We've got something better for you. You don't want this stuff. This is material. It's not, and it's that classic story of people who, rags to riches, and they make all this money and they get there and like, I don't care about all this, the 3-car garage and tennis rackets. And, it's like, that's not transcendence. That's not real fulfillment. So I feel like we're all collectively at this moment where we can recognize this.
Exactly. I love it. And somehow there's still that split between, we can't have it that good on this earth plane, but somehow it's an either or thing. And that's what I love about this hint of this Virgo moon at 0. It's the beginning of our work, the beginning of the work of, maybe we can have it this good. Maybe if we give ourselves some room and some discernment and allow ourselves to recognize that we are a vessel of transformation. We are not just, at the whim of life, unless we want to have ourselves be at the whim of life, but we have a choice to be more engaged and more sovereign in what we're choosing, not to barrel through it and persevere, which can be a Capricorn thing, right? But to literally build a resilience, build our capacities to sustain this way of orienting to when the winds change of opportunity or of disillusionment, whatever it might be, that we still have us no matter what. And again, like I was sharing with you before the podcast, I love that this moon is on Regulus, and Regulus is one of the 4 royal stars, which are very much a part of the apocalypse. They're the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. And what's interesting, and this is a conversation for a whole other time, Leanna, but Regulus is the last of the 4 royal stars to move into a mutable sign. And that in and of itself is very significant. So just quickly to name them, it's Antares, which is the heart of the scorpion, right? Which is at 9 or 10 of Sagittarius. Then we have Aldebaran, which is the eye of the bull, which is at 10 degrees or so of Gemini. And then we have Fomalhaut, which is the mouth of the urn of the water bearer, which is at 3 degrees of Pisces. And then we have now Regulus in 2000, some accounts 2011, other accounts 2012 is when Regulus entered Virgo. So what, I mean, again,
after 2,000 years of being at 29 Leo.
Right. These stars move only 1 degree every 72 years. So this is huge. And again, this is a whole other podcast, but Regulus is associated with the angel Raphael, which is the healer.
Right.
And Virgo, an archetype of Virgo is healing.
Right.
So it's like, for me, it's like, if we stick around, we can get the goods, like we can get the healing. Like the healing, sure, if we want to leave, and there are those who are gonna, I feel like it's, honoring their sovereignty and their choice to leave and not stick around. But for those of us who do, the goodies are available to us if we pick appropriately, if we don't pick too much, if we don't overextend ourselves or go off into wishful thinking that's not based in reality, Virgo, but we stay
grounded.
Exactly, stay grounded in the sovereignty. I mean, Regulus is the kingmaker. Regulus is, it's the heart of the lion, Cor Leonis.
Right.
So find our heart and stabilize in our hearts. And one of the things I love about Virgo is the vessel for the Leonine energy. And again, this is Virgo, but it's the constellation of the lion, right? The celestial lion.
Right.
And so the Virgin holds the celestial lion. And that could be one of the things about the apocalypse. She literally is birthing the new sovereign, the new king or queen. And so, and there's so much astrology in Revelations too, for anybody who wants to go, it's all astrological. It's so fascinating. So wherever this split between like religion and, you know, the occult knowledge and wisdom, like astrology came, it was to disempower people, because it's all in there. There's so much in Revelations and in the Bible in general around astrology. But anyway.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other topic.
You know, it's when you think about the Regulus having been at 29 Leo for so many years, 2,000 years. And I think about what was 2,000 years ago, you know, Julius, Augustus Caesar, and, you know, all that whole male patriarchal, you know, the domination, you know, I'm the king and I said so. And now it's metamorphosing into, with zero Virgo, is, okay, you know, the high road is that we are all kings and queens of, you know, in the Russian Orthodox wedding, they have the archbishop holds crowns over the bride and bridegroom's heads, and they move around them, and the symbology being that, you know, to remind them that, you know, you are kings and queens of creation. And so it's never about an outside king that we give our power to. So we've slowly come around to this. And to me, that movement from Regulus of 29 Leo into zero, it's like saying, look, we are these kings and queens of creation, and we are these divine light beings, that Leonine, you know, yes, the king of, you know, we are that sovereign light body, except that we're dropping the ego. And to me, it's like when it rolling over, passing the baton to Virgo is like saying, take your power and serve, be humble.
Yes. Humble, you got it. That's it. Humility is how we get to the goods. And humility is really, it's not humiliation, which that word comes from, but humility comes from the word humus, which literally means of the earth. It is the stuff of the earth. And what are we earthing? We're getting to the ground of our being, where we're no better than and no less than. We are in complete unto herself. That's another epitaph for the Virgin, for Venus. Is like, and the reason why she's complete is not that she doesn't need anybody else, but she knows her ground, the ground of, this is what I am, no more, no less. And that's how when we stand our ground, literally in that way, like you say, the region that we are becomes revealed. Our hearts becomes revealed. And, you know, she's opposing, this moon is opposing Virgo. I mean,
here it is.
Venus. Yeah.
Yeah. Exact opposition.
Exactly. It's yes, there is yeah.
That it really is, when you think about it, it really is phenomenal that we're seeing this literally in time and space with these planetary lineups. I mean, like you said, that Revelation and Apocalypse it is a reveal unto me.
Yes.
And it's like, it's right there. And yeah, it's just mind blowing. I'm so glad we're talking about this, Andrea. You know, like, this is so important. Mm-hmm. And here's the sun at 22 Aries exalted, you know, right. Here's the sun, you know, exaltation.
It's exactly right. And Venus in Pisces is exalted too, right?
Yes,
so it's like,
right. The sun's exalted, Venus is exalted, Neptune's in domicile, Jupiter's in domicile. You know, this is it. I mean, this is like, and I look at the, I don't know a whole lot about this, but I've just read a little bit about 22 degrees, you know, numerologically 22 being, you know, this gateway. And I see you know, the fact, and I've also heard this, there was an astrologer, a man in Serbia, who talked about the 22 degree point. And it's really like this, like, I want to say it's like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be? You know, you know, this is it. This is it. Like, not in a bad, like, this is it, man, you better, no, like, we're getting rid of that. But it is, it's important that we grasp this, and that we're not in the fog. And thank God the moon in Virgo is saying, okay, Let's make this clear for you. This whole thing is just a huge revealing. And look at the groundedness too, Andrea. You know, the moon in Virgo, in the domicile of Mercury. Mercury is also in an earth sign, soon to conjunct Uranus. So this is spectacular, you know. This
exactly.
This is the Virgin giving birth in the apocalyptic vision of the Book of Revelation. I just feel this so strongly, you know, that having that, you know, I guess maybe I you know, I was born on the Assumption, and so there was a holy day that holy day of obligation on my birthday. So Mother Mary's Assumption, you know, the Assumption of Mary into heaven. They didn't say ascension in the Catholic Church, they say Assumption, but you know, my mother used to say, you know, yes, Mary was assumed to heaven. She just went right to heaven. I was like, wow, that's really cool, you know. We can escape this mundane world, you know.
Right.
But that's available for all of us. You know, it's just, hey, you want this? You can have it, you know. First, you have to give up the illusion of what you think you wanted.
That's it. And that's the thing. And that's all we're giving up, really. It's like, again, this idea of what I love about the moon being opposite of Mars and Saturn in there too. It's like they're in the sign of Aquarius, which is the most objective sign of the zodiac. So it's literally maintaining some sort of, I mean, there's so many ways we can interpret that, but maintaining objectivity, right, and not making it so personal. The risk of Venus, another risk of Venus in Pisces is like everything is so personal, you know, really Pisces, everything is about me, or the life is against me, or whatever it might be that we could be telling ourselves, or, you know, and Pisces can also be the victim.
Right, I was going to say that victim, martyr, savior.
Victim, martyr, savior. Exactly.
And there is no saving on the outside, you know. There's and there never was. And this is a massive awakening that's occurring. How outrageous. I mean, we are really lucky to be alive at this time. That's how I see it.
I agree. Yeah, and that's not to say that it's not difficult or it's not, but the way I see Earth life, for me personally, the way I'm choosing to live it is it's an initiation. This is a dense planet, but the more that we can literally step down, transduce higher frequencies into our body, which is another opportunity that I think I mentioned at the forecast, was Jupiter can transduce, bring down coherency from Neptune, from Pisces into that Virgo moon. And in the mundane reality, or in the mundane chart, Virgo is also, or the moon is the people, right? And Virgo is like the people who were subservient. It can be also the slaves, or the people who are subservient.
Right.
Virgo.
The workers.
The workers.
Or the common man kind of
common man.
Person. Right.
On Regulus, we recognize that we have the power. It's not the people or the institutions or the governments that have the power. We actually have the power. And that's part of what is this revealing, in my experience, is like revealing even more of the shadow parts of the established order being revealed to be unsavory. The darkness that, again, this is the sextile to Pluto and Capricorn.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot to be hopeful for, but grounded optimism is really what it feels like this time period, which is leading up to this exact conjunction, but even beyond that is this grounded optimism. What can we do now? What is available to do for us now in this time that is hopeful? That we don't get carried away with more than we can handle, or on either end, positive or negative. Yeah.
So another it's that Jupiter-Neptune. I'm channeling all this. Another Bible verse that comes to me is when they said, "The last shall be first, and the first shall be last." I have chills on my. I don't know if you can see my hair on my. But the last shall be first, and the first shall be last. So let me just pull up the screen again here. You know, with that when you said earlier about the moon, Virgo being, you know, the worker, the common worker, I think of like the carpenter and the
Yep.
tradesperson, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
And so here it is. It's like the humblest, you know, how Jesus was always about humility.
Yeah.
And all the great masters, the most humble people. So here's Jupiter, I mean, sorry, here's you know, the moon in Virgo, and it's like, it's just such divine perfection. This is like, just as all these things are dissolving, you know, here comes the moon at 0 Virgo conjunct Regulus to say, you know what, you guys are the kings. It's not this person on the throne. That's that old paradigm. It's just everything shifting and coming into focus now. Wow, I'm just, it just blows me away.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. And again, this is an opportunity. I keep coming back to that Pluto and Capricorn for deep, lasting transformation. This is not a, you know, one-shot deal unless we make it a one-shot deal. But if we recognize that this is for the long haul, that we're investing literally in our future, then this is, and through the present, that's Virgo too. Virgo is literally, you know, if Pisces is ultimate reality, Virgo is relative reality, relative truth, whatever. So it's like bringing it down, transducing to make it, you know, and there's what's applicable now. And that's all we need to worry about. What can we do now?
Chop wood, carry water.
Yes.
That Virgo thing.
Yes, you got it. And slowing down enough to know that our blessings are already here, that we don't have to go searching or reaching for them, because that can be a, you know, Sagittarian, Jupiterian thing, is the search. It's the addiction to the search, which is also what this can be. Like, show us how addicted we are to leaving ourselves to acquire something when maybe what we have that we're telling ourselves isn't enough, that we might be believing other people telling us isn't enough, that we have to keep producing or getting more in order to be good enough, which can be the shadow side of Virgo, is I'm not good enough to hold these kinds of energies. I'm not good enough to be part of this paradigm. And
do again, I deserve this?
Right. And this is very unconscious necessarily. It doesn't have to be that we are aware that we hold this, but this is a good opportunity to see where we've been deceiving ourselves around that we can't do it, that we don't have what it takes.
And it's like, you know what, it was always right. Yeah, that 0 Virgo moon, critical degree, you know, it was always right in front of you. And it was just, and it's the simplicity, I think, of Virgo too, earth and groundedness and simplicity, like just sitting on the earth. Like, it's all you had to do is just go in nature. It's all there for you. You didn't have to, you know, when I think of the US inauguration chart of always that Taurus rising, I think of, oh, there's the way that they, you know, that's a way of keeping the, I'll call it the Neiman Marcus culture, you know, and the 6-car garage and all the stuff and 38 shades of red nail polish. I am my Mercedes Benz, and you know, it's like all this stuff. That's the, unfortunately, that's the shadow side. But see now, with Uranus and Taurus, you know, and this eclipse coming, oh my God, it's just busting that up. Like, okay, we, you know, can't have this anymore. It's costing everybody too much. We're just gonna, here, let us help you. We're really gonna liberate you from this slavery, really, you know, and bring you back to earth. Let's, yeah, it's just, wow. and the fact that if you want to just jump over to that, or at least just the solar eclipse here is happening in the 9th house of God. In ancient astrology, you know, they call the 9th house the house of God, and that's where the sun exalts. So this is of course just Washington DC, but look at that, you know.
Oh my gosh,
And then everything you mentioned, of course, all this being in a sextile, overcoming sextile. So this disillusionment with religion, with say organized religion and religious fundamentalism and all the shadow side of that whole thing, the disillusionment with spirit, you know, dogma and things, and then how that is casting its rays over onto that 9th house eclipse. Wow. Like you could see that as like a real change point for religion and reinventing what is important to us, what are the, where does it come from, and what needs to dissolve, and what takes its place. So
Right.
yeah, it's pretty outrageous.
Yep.
And then where's the moon? 4 degrees. Yeah, it's 4 degrees away. And we still got those nodes at 22,
I know.
fixed signs.
And look at Venus. She is at her exaltation degree.
Conjunct Jupiter.
Yes.
27 is her exaltation degree. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Yeah. Oh my God.
Jupiter by 2 minutes. The dispositor ruler of the North Node. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just keep getting waves of chills.
Yes. I am with you. Very much.
We've looked at this chart a lot, in the last several months, and yet every time, that's what I love about astrology. It's like a kaleidoscope.
Yep.
Oh my God, look at that jewel. Oh, here's another jewel.
Right.
And it's like, and then here's Saturn in late degrees of Aquarius. Like, okay, yes, that's great. Now let's keep our focus, and we'll see. and it's okay, folks. This is our new, in Aquarius, this is our new society, and we're breaking up the old, that whole Pluto thing of it's like, you want a sustainable society. Well, first we have to get the toxic stuff out, and now we're gonna,
Exactly.
which is what 2020. But I see this as. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I'm agreeing. And he's square the node, or it's square the nodes, Saturn. So it's like, are we choosing the past or the future? Like, literally, it's like, are we choosing? And there's also something that I keep coming to, which is there's been a real push in the last decade, but even more recently, around artificial intelligence. AI, using nanotechnology for health or whatever. And that stuff, I mean, I don't know. So literally, is it in Scorpio South Node? Scorpio can be, again, shadow, dark stuff,
Right.
Because it's a South Node. I'm talking about the less desirable qualities of Scorpio. It's a occlusion, like where things are literally the occult, but occult can be where things are occluded from us. Right. They're not, it's the murky waters of Scorpio. So are we going to choose to go to some of these, like, is the technology that's being developed by, you could say, these institutions, Saturn, really for our benefit? Or are they, are they bringing us where we need to be, North Node? Or are they taking us even further into darkness and occlusion, and where we're more disempowered, which is Scorpio South Node, rather than empowered, which is an aspect of Scorpio, which is on its positive manifestation. So we get to choose,
right.
Where do we want to go? Do we want to go to the past for fear and just keep letting institutions tell us what's the next step for us, like build back better or whatever? Or are we building back better based on what we want, what our values are, our hearts tell us, our desires for a better world, for a more inclusive society? And so.
And it can, and the whole thing with AI is, for certain, you see that very strongly too with the almost conjunction. It's only 4 degrees away from Uranus, so Uranus is definitely like, let's return, a revolution and returning to Earth, and Earth values. And yet it can also be with representing AI, and Saturn and Aquarius, you could look at that too as AI. But the fact that this is definitely a tipping point where, talk about what, is that your new society? Is it social credit and media and that whole, meta? Oh, that thing is freaky, and is that the future you want? Because you're either going to become this, bot thing if you go that path, or you can choose what we've been talking about here, which is totally organic and revolutionary in an organic sense of returning to the earth, return to Eden.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing too. Again, the Pisces, Venus, the dispositor with Jupiter, they're heaven on earth, literally. It's up to us to bring it. It's not going to come to us from some magical garden, or it's like we're the ones who bring it here through our choices, through our actions, through what we choose to say no to and what we choose to say yes to. That's the discernment piece. It's so, and I love that the ascendant is in Virgo here.
Right, for the
really,
US.
yeah. So it's, again, discernment, 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 bringing a good dose of discernment into this and practical reality. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this chart in. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I'm so glad I brought you in.
Oh,
Just,
thank you.
I love going deep on this, and I'm thinking, man, I should just, yeah, there's so much to be shared in this way. And I love the fact that, I think it's important that we're out there talking about this stuff, because I feel there are so many people who may be alone and they don't know who to talk to about this, and people think they're nuts or whatever. And it's like, yeah, we are that safe space as astrologers, all of us, astrologers, healers, shamans, we are here conducting that, walking people across that bridge.
Yeah.
So it's,
I love that.
you're not alone. You're not alone at all. I mean, one of the things that it makes me sad is like when I see all this, and here we've got a stellium in Pisces, including Mars by that time for the eclipse. I think about the that in terms when you said earlier about people leaving the planet for whatever reason. It could be addiction, drug addiction, or it could just be their soul is ready to leave, and there's no bad or wrong in any of this. But what does make me sad is that we have had such a huge fentanyl opioid, crisis and fentanyl.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about this, but I read this about a month or two ago. It was in the news, and it said, I saw this headline, and it said that the number one killer in the United States. So of course, what your first thought? Oh, it's probably COVID. No, it wasn't COVID. It's fentanyl overdose.
Yeah.
Huge, and they said the fentanyl overdose, the statistics, it's like it was up over 8,000 times since 2008. It's just, so there's that Piscean,
Yes, exactly. Oh, yeah. Washington State is very, very strict around prescriptions for opioids and stuff for that very, very reason. But it's, yeah, I agree. We are so misinformed around what the real issues are through the media, through most media outlets, that we perseverate on certain things because this is what we're told we should be worried about or we should concern ourselves with, which detracts us from living our lives. Anyway, but
yeah,
I agree that what the real endemic disease is the disease of the separation between believing ourselves to need an institution or something outside of us to parent us.
yes,
This is from in my experience, in my coming clear with me in my work, it's like the addiction to needing to be cared for by something or someone outside of ourselves,
right,
which is it's a species wide thing, and all of us have it, I think, to some degree or another. And that's part of literally a habit that we're breaking, and that there's yeah, and it just feels to me like this is a time of deep, deep possible potential empowerment for each of us who want to take that on. But like you say, for those who are just like, I don't want to do it this time around, they, the choice to leave. And yeah, between the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction and the eclipse, and a little bit beyond that, I believe is this window. We might start to see more people choosing whether they whether they admit it consciously or not.
Consciously or not, right? Much of it is just they don't know why. They just, maybe they, on a soul level, they know it's like, okay, I'm good, I'm done, you know. But yeah, for whatever reason, there's just, and also I just remember, you know, I really feel this could be a time where, you know, organized religion just completely, it's the dissipation of that. Like you think about the Catholic Church has had it. I looked this up on Wikipedia once. It actually is the oldest institution on earth.
Wow.
It's been here 2,000 years.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, think about that. It's like that, and then the only other big long-standing institution that, well, it's been around over 1,000 years, is the British monarchy. So, and look at where that's, you know, and we can see that whole shift, especially with Pluto Capricorn and all the scandals and things, like you think about Prince Andrew and all the shadow and all that stuff. And yet, and then in the same with the church, you know, the scandals with this child sex abuse and such. So there's this shadow that's showing up. And I think it's like at this point where I think that when things get that bad, and that's always been tried to hushed, you know, for so many years, swept under the rug, whether it was the monarchy or whatever, you know, but those are like the two oldest institutions. So you think about Pluto and Capricorn breaking all that down, exposing the toxicity that was under the surface. And so what's left? People can be so disillusioned. I mean, I see people in England, and they're like, oh, the Queen, you know, and they like, this is the only monarch they've ever known for, you know, 75 years. And they have such an identification with like this, oh, well, she's this nice lady. And it's like, but that's all outside of you, you know, and everything is just shifting so radically. And I think this particular eclipse and this Jupiter-Neptune conjunction is just going to hasten things,
yes,
you know, more along.
And I love what you're saying here, Leona, because it's making me think of not to bring this, but it's like the veil of illusion of the glamorization of celebrities, people outside of it. I mean, look at the whole Will Smith, Chris Rock thing. I mean, it's like, again, not to go into that thing, but like a lot of people are like, wow, what a, you know, for whatever reason, it's not about going into who is right and who's wrong, but the fact that there was violence involved on national television is like, wow, things are really getting a little bit, you know, this is the kind of exposure of like the people that we might have like idealized in some way, shape, or form, whether it be through religion, whether it be through government, whether it be through public figures, you know, whatever. The veneer is starting to get old. The veneer is starting to come off, right?
Right.
And that's a good thing. Yes, it hurts to be disillusioned, and yet it's going to bring more truth. And part of the truth is how much I've relied on the external, like you're saying, like literally the film screen of my life to tell me what life is, who I am, how I should be. And this is part of this, where the surrendering and discovery of the Venus phase that we're in right now can be supportive of us to know that this is an organic sloughing off that's necessary. It's part of the natural cycle of things. And Venus being an internal planet, intimate to us, we can take this to heart, but not take it personally, and make it our own. Engage ourselves in our own natural sloughing off, like how we want to do it ourselves. Take charge of our lives and how we want to navigate this period through what can I do in my own life to help myself gently slough off what is not true, to make room for more of what actually is.
Because I've just discovered I'm really the driver.
Yes, exactly.
What the thing that came to me too is like that scene at the end of The Wizard of Oz when Toto pulls the curtain back and the wizard is, here's the powers that be, you know, with the, you know, think of that Jupiter, Neptune, and Pisces, you know, I'm putting out this illusion that there's this power outside of you. And she was always so afraid, and the head with the flames, you know, in that big room. And it was always such a fear for her. And then she realizes this is all an illusion. So it's like this Jupiter, Neptune, Venus is the Toto And it's like, oh, look at this machination. And he's desperately trying to hang on to his power. And he kept pulling the curtain and he kept going back and he's working those things. And she's like, oh, all this fear I had, there's nothing to be afraid of. The Piscean, you know, can be that scary. No, there's nothing to be. And then the ruby red slippers. It's so Venus, the ruby red,
Oh,
you know.
totally. Oh, so
And
much.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I can go home now because I don't have to wait for anybody to tell me to go home. I'll do it myself, you know.
Yep. I have my own possessions. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, well, that was cool. I am so glad you. Yeah. Any parting words? Did you want to maybe a few, like a little you know, advice for what keywords might everybody might want to focus on to really get the most out of this magical, like I tell people, hasn't happened in 166 years, you know.
Right?
Don't miss it.
That's interesting. I love that you're asking me this. I would love to share, as I'm a big fan of the Chandra symbols by Elias Lonsdale.
Oh yeah.
And I actually would love to read the one for the conjunction, which
sure,
is 24
yes.
Pisces. But I have this highlighted in my little notes here, that sovereignty is an intimate, mundane, normal affair.
Sovereignty is an intimate, mundane,
and
normal affair. I love that.
Right? It's like bells, and we're addicted to bells and whistles, right? And so it's like, how simple and normal can we be and make that and discover the juice in that? And at first we're going to be bored. At first we're going to be like, there's nothing here, but we slow down, Taurian style,
right,
and really sink in, and we might surprise ourselves.
Moon in Virgo, critical degree.
Yes,
you know, it's like,
exactly.
Oh, I love that. And it's not like sovereignty is like sovereignty with a capital S, that it's important. It's like, it's not important. It's just sovereignty. It's just
that.
normal.
Ileana, that's beautiful. Making ourselves important. That is what we are like cutting here in this potential. Like, I'm so important. This is important. I know this one well. I've worked on this myself.
It means something.
It means something. It's got to mean something. Exactly. I love that. Thank you for bringing that.
It's so liberating. It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Breathe.
Yes. The transcendent, the numinous can be normal if it's up to us. It really is. So this Pisces 24 degrees Chandra symbol. And again, if anybody wants to look at this, it's I think you can find them online at aquafire.net, AQAFIRE.net. But again, Elias Lonsdale is the
I'll put the link in the information below so people can I love those things. They're so cool. I like them better than the Dane Rudger ones. Sometimes those are okay, but I just like the Chandra symbols better.
They work for me, exactly. So this is the title is A Spring Festival. The participants are in a state of ecstatic frenzy. Sounds very Dionysian, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Inward explosions. The pressure valve goes off. You sit inside collective and ancestral frequencies of doubt, insecurity, and suppression until this can no longer be. The frenzied edge of new worlds, the ancient accumulations of old worlds. Coming to that point where the inward power overthrows form constraints, scatters semblances, and finds something magnificent that has been untapped and forbidden for so very long. The final spark ignites, releases, and reveals. Revelation. What was lost and forgotten is more there than ever, and not discouraged, never put down.
Not discouraged, never. Oh gosh, if that doesn't speak to this chart, nothing does.
Right?
Oh man.
Exactly.
I am so glad you shared that with us and just shared all of it with us. This is, I have to say, Andrea, I feel, I feel emotional saying this, but this is like one of the best podcasts I feel I've ever had.
Oh.
Yeah, just just have to say that. There's my Venus in Pisces. There it is. Live coverage.
It's been, from the moment I received your email and I watched your podcasts, I was like, this is a being I want to do this with. So thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a true pleasure in my heart to sit here with you and to co-create this experience. It's been
same here. I want you to come back and tell us more. You know, you're such a deep wellspring, and to me it feels that's what we're all hungry for, and it's just so vital that we all walk, you know, as Ram Dass said, you know, we all walk each other home.
Yeah. Oh, so much. Yes. I'd be thrilled to come back. Be fun.
You just name the date, man. You're there. You have a permanent ticket.
Oh, thank you, Ariana. You're a treasure. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, anyway, so that concludes episode 155. Wow, that's an 11. Wow, isn't that interesting?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Wow.
22, 11. Master numbers. Right on.
Master numbers. So yes, thank you. And so and if people must know more about you. PreciousHumanBirth.com is your website?
Yes.
Precious Human Birth. Okay. And they can contact you through the site, and whatever you've got coming up, special stuff, you know, they can jump on that mailing list and have at it.
Have at it. Exactly. I welcome one and all. Exactly. Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Andrea. It's been a pleasure, and we will definitely talk soon.
Great. Looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
Okay. You are more than welcome. And yes, I got to put my glasses back on. All right. Well, thank you. And we will talk soon.
Yes, I'm very excited. This has been so fantastic. Honestly, it's been really, really fun to be here with you. And
all right. And so everybody, yes, this has been another edition of StarSound Speaks, StarSoundAstrology.com. Thank you all so much for listening. Many blessings to you, and may we all have the most outrageous download in this beautiful experience that is Jupiter, Venus, Neptune. All right. Namaste.
namaste.